Hi. Um, so I want to read something, and it's kind of long, but it's really good, I guess. I think it's good, and that's maybe because it's mine. Well, if it's not good, that's okay, because then you don't have to watch it. Okie doke. Alright. I guess it's called Down the Path. Let me just make sure that this is the version I want. Because if it's not, then this whole video will be for nothing. Okay. Alright, so my mind was lulled into a false sense of security as I took Lucifer's hand as he led me down a path I was completely ignorant of. I allowed my senses to deteriorate as I soon accepted the belligerent sin all around me as normal. God was a God of grace, however. It was okay if I asked for forgiveness later. I weakened and soon relinquished the guidance of the Holy Spirit. I refused to partner with him. I thought that I would just be abandoned, like all the rest had done, and I proceeded to push him away. I lost sight of what was good, and new morals slowly took dominion. I was getting farther and farther down the path of death. My desires transformed. Cutting convinced me that there was an escape for the darkness that consumed me. It did nothing more than quicken my pace down the path. I let hatred and bitterness spark the flame, with rejection being the gasoline that was doused, beginning to destroy my life and the inner parts of me. I made new companions along the way: self-loathing, depression, isolation, and self-pity. I let them dictate the way to go. I had clothed myself in worthlessness, and my companions seemed to agree. Pain followed closely, and I eventually convinced myself that I liked his company. Everyone seemed to say that I deserved it. I was walking in the direction of hopelessness and despair, soon forgetting of the life I used to know before my innocence was stolen. My soul was starving, and Lucifer was quick to offer me solutions. At first, I was appalled, but with my defenses broken, I was just an open wound, not to be healed anytime soon, because I was constantly reopening it. Eventually, I gave in, the fear of abandonment the driving factor in this journey. My mind was polluted, and my heart ached. Brokenness took over my being as I fell to the ground. All of my companions surrounded me and repeated, "You deserve this." I didn't get up until I believed it. From then on, I expected the worst. I turned a blind eye when things came my way to hurt me. After all, I deserved this. I stopped caring for myself because there was no longer anything worth caring for. I was quickly introduced to vanity, who was very well liked. I ran to it, but could never seem to quite grasp it. From then on, self-hatred only grew closer. When I finally looked at myself in the mirror, I was horrified. Who had I become? I saw nothing more than a monster, scars all over my body, and my eyes ridden with pain and brokenness. My hair was matted, and bruises and welts canvassed every visual part of my body. Had I really come so far on the path of destruction? It looked so pretty from the entrance. Where was the happiness that I was promised? Why wasn't I fulfilled yet? I was worse off than when I started, and desperation kicked in. How could I keep living like this? My eyes were opened, and I saw everyone around me. The same cloud of defeat hovered around them. I saw some force a smile, but it was obvious that they convinced themselves that this was satisfaction. The people were being led around on leashes. I remember that I too had one. Remembrance rushing in like a flood, I realized I had put that leash on myself. Lucifer had assured me that it was the latest and greatest, and that I would still be in control. That didn't make sense, because I knew that I had truly lost control. I did things and went places that I said I'd never do or go. My hands flew up to it, and I tried to frantically yank it off. It was pretty sturdy. I looked back in the mirror and saw the latch on it. Could I have really taken this off the whole time? Easily enough, it came off and fell to the ground. My neck was red and raw. My companions quickly picked up the leash and held it out for me to take. "You need this. You're not as worthless with it on. You fit in. Put it back on." But there was another voice in all the commotion. It was faint, calling my name to come. I looked around to see where it had originated. My companions were surrounding me, and I knew that it couldn't have been them. I pushed past them and ran in some direction, needing to find the one that this voice came from. I stopped and listened, and heard my name called again. "Come," it beckoned. I looked around and saw something that I hadn't seen before. There, at the edge of the horizon, was a bright light. I ran towards it, at full force. I heard pounding footsteps behind me, and I knew that it was my companions. I could feel their hot breath on my neck, and I knew that they were near. Still, I persisted, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Many distractions flashed around me, things that looked so beautiful. At one time, I would have done anything to be a part of them, but there was something about the light that was far greater. It appealed to more than just my senses, my physical being. It tugged at my heart, and my soul longed for it. When I reached the end of the horizon to where I saw the light, I saw a man. He was standing there smiling at me, but it didn't seem forced or fake. He was staring straight at me. I ran to him and stopped, panting, afraid my companions would capture me and drag me away. I spun to see if I was right. They were coming towards me, arms outstretched, grabbing for me. I cowered in fear, and the man beside me placed a hand on my shoulder and spoke gently. "Why don't you just ask them to leave?" A nervous laugh was my response. "Would that really work?" "Giving it a shot," I said. "Go away." My voice was soft and shaking, but when I opened my eyes again, they were gone. I circled, looking for them, but they really were gone. Confused, I looked back at the man. He wasn't like anyone I had seen since I decided to pursue pleasure on the path of destruction. He had no markings on his neck, but I could see large scars on his wrists, and similar scars on his feet were visible through his sandals. When my eyes met his again, I saw that they were full of compassion and understanding. I hadn't seen him on the road I had traveled, led by chains. I was filthy compared to this man dressed in white. "Ready?" he asked as he held out his hand. I battled within myself. Did I dare take it, unknowledgeable of the outcome? Or did I want to put the leash back on and continue to try to find happiness on the path that was leading me nowhere good? Did this man too have a leash for me? I shoved those thoughts aside as I put my hand in his. He led me to a much smaller path. It was so different in comparison to where I had just come from. There was nothing flashing, trying to catch my eye, unlike the old way which did so immediately. This way looked much longer. I didn't see any signs promising immediate pleasure. There was nothing promoting success, and I couldn't locate anywhere to get rich quick. The unfamiliarity of it all sickened my stomach. I looked back to the entrance to the old path. "Will you trust me?" he asked, his voice as sweet as honey. I had trusted the others so easily. Why was it so hard to trust this man who had so far shown me nothing but good? He seemed to understand my hesitant silence. "I will walk with you every step of the way. When you want to run, we'll run. When you can't go on, I'll carry you." I was baffled. What have I ever done for him that he would do such a thing for me? I started to remember all of my past hurts and abandonments. "I've heard that before," I said, now looking down. "I was promised love." He nodded and placed his hand gently on my shoulder. Tears came to my eyes as I broke the silence. But I wasn't worth it. There was a pause. "But you are," he replied. He held out his arm, his scars deep and grabbing for my attention. My eyes were fixed. When I looked back up at him, he said, "These were for you." I was silent when he led me to a different room, but my mind was spinning. He held out a beautiful white garment. "That's beautiful," I said, smiling. "Whoever wears that must be something special." I looked down, thinking that there was no way I could fit in here, just in tattered rags. Yes, you are." He handed it to me and helped me put it on, cleaning the dried blood that was on me. I felt so inadequate. But when he led me to a mirror, I saw someone completely different. I saw someone beautiful. How could this be? His smile was big. "You don't know how long I've been waiting for you." He handed me a large bouquet of the prettiest flowers I've ever seen. "Let's leave your old clothes of shame behind. They don't suit you. Now it's time to celebrate. Finally, you have returned to me." But what about all I've done?" I asked, ready to pick back up the old clothing. "I could never have enough to pay for something as beautiful as this. I'm sorry, but you have the wrong person." As I turned to leave, the man grabbed my arm gently. "Wait," he said. He held out the palm of his hand, and I saw my name written in it. "I've already paid the price to cover all of the expenses. I want you to be free. Won't you come with me?" How could I not? This man had done so much for me that the others would have never thought about doing. But here I could still make the decision to go back and try to forget all of this. But I wanted to be beautiful. Here I was, in a lovely dress, and I didn't have to try and give myself away to do so. Could this be where I truly belong? I smiled and grabbed his hand, nodding. My heart was finally at peace for once in my life. My thoughts were quieted, and one thing resounded throughout my body. Even though I was more than inadequate, I was worth investing to someone. It didn't seem to matter my past mess-ups. He offered me a new beginning, one truly promising life. There was no going back. This man was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, and his name is Jesus. Matthew 7:13-14. You can enter God's kingdom only through the narrow gate. The highway to hell is broad, and its gate wide for many who choose that way. But the gateway to life is very narrow, and the road is difficult, and only a few ever find it.